going to talk about the biggest challenge that many designers and engineers in startups are facing is building a design system within limited time frames. So time constraints can make it tough to start, maintain, keep consistent, and scale. So we'll explore strategies to overcome these obstacles, overview approaches to prioritize components, and dive into different plugins and AI tools to build design system faster. So first thing first, let me introduce myself. Currently, I'm working at PolyAI and I'm designing better user experience for conversational AI assistants. I have more than 9 years of experience as a product UI/UX designer and also work with multiple design systems for large companies and tiny startups. Also in the past and right now, I have multiple degrees as an accountant and digital designer. And I really love mentoring designers and help them at early stages of their career. But why design system? Probably you heard a lot that design system is really helpful. It makes companies deliver feature faster. It helps engineers to reuse code, and also it increases revenue and just reduce time spending on designing components and tickets. And it's really beneficial for companies, especially startups, to spend time on designing and creating, building design system, because using design system is all about saving time and money. But it's also challenging. When you start working on design system, it means you should think about consistency. Also, you usually have resource limitation and also communicational gaps, and you need to align your stakeholders and other departments, and also usually you have technical constraints and issues with adoption. But when we're talking about startups, we have even more challenges. Like usually startups don't have time to anything. Speed is really high and also roadmap is very dense. Usually there is no assigned team to create design system, and also there usually scalability issue with the platform and especially with the design system itself. And usually there is prioritization conflicts due to roadmap. What you should do? Technically, when you just create your company, when you start working on product, you can use Happy Path, and just by really already existing design system, there is few platforms where you can make it happen, so you definitely should look at these platforms. There is a lot of design system for different type of products, for different size of company and different size of product. There could be a really complex design system for like hundreds of components and a really simple one for tiny startups who just start their path. So you can use this design system that already existing. Usually they have Figma file and files for engineers and links to repository to use it and just use for your platform. But when we're talking about existing products, an existing team that already have design system or UI kit, it means that maybe they don't have this opportunity to use Happy Path. Probably they can improve their existing design system or move forward creating design system. So first of all, what you should have to create a really successful design system is to have roadmap and also long-term vision. And your design system should be valuable for its users, so you definitely should have users. By users, I mean engineers and designers and other teammates who can use the design system on a daily basis. For example, usually it's designers, engineers, QA engineers, or marketing team. And also, it's all about value. So this design system should be really valuable to its users. And at the same time, you should have metrics for a design system to check if this design system is okay. For example, this metrics could be satisfaction of your users. And you also should create some specific adoption plan, how to make these users use and love your design system. So when you realize that you have users and you need to create a design system and it will be valuable, you should start from something. So you probably know that usually design systems have really specific components. For example, buttons, inputs, color palette, grid, and icons. So you should think about prioritization, where to start, what components should go first, what elements you should build first. In this case, there existing few types of prioritization. First of all, you can use any prioritization tool you already use on your product. For example, so technically you have 4 columns: must have, should have, could have, and won't have, where you can place any of your components. For example, from my experience, usually you should place color palette, grid system, icons, and fonts to must have. And for example, if you are early stage startup, so you probably don't need to think about creating some specific components like combo box or data pickers. So in this case, it could be in the column of won't have or won't have right now. And there is another approach of prioritization. This is technically a system methodology for designing called atomic design, where you have subatomic components such as color palettes, typography, and spacing. And also you have other components that is more complex, like atoms. You see this could be icons, buttons, labels, or inputs. Molecules, organisms, and more complex elements such as pages. And usually work starts from subatomic and atoms, and then you go to the more complex one. One more prioritization methods is roadmap based. So technically you can see, just imagine this is your roadmap, you have features on this roadmap, and it means that you can start working on design system during work on your feature. So technically it's close to atomic design, atomic methodology, because at the beginning you should work on the most basic components such as colors, buttons, inputs, and then you go further with second feature. There could be different components, so it could be input. So usually with this approach, with this roadmap-based approach, there will be lots of work at the beginning with your design system, and then closer to the middle of your roadmap, you will see that your design system is already ready. So most components are already used. I might say from my experience, I usually use atomic approach and roadmap-based approach, and sometimes I use something like collaboration mix of these approaches. But usually I start from subatomic components such as colors and color palette, and then I go with features and components that is connected to each feature. And I might say I really recommend these two approaches, like roadmap-based and atomic design approach. So since we agreed and you agreed on moving forward with some specific approach of prioritization, it means you should think about the process of creating your design system. So first thing first, you should think about why do you need this component? So this is discovery stage. The same as working on every feature, you would have discovery, design, development, and release. And also you can go back and forward in some steps. And also you can see there's a few additional steps in each of this phase. So there should be audit, discussion, scoping, kickoff. Then there should be exploration, user testing, of course, and documentation at each step. And also when you release, you also should think about announcement, because you have users and you should definitely share what's different, what's new in your design system. And also you should have metrics to check. Sometimes you may not have metrics. For example, there is 5 people who are using the design system, and the metrics you can have is just satisfaction. And technically, yes, you have metric, but at the same time, it's not that metric as you probably could have on your product. Because your metric is your user feedback, technically. So what's next? We understand what approach to use, you understand what process can be. So next step is design phase. So color palette is the most basic element of your design system, but it also time consuming. Work on color palette can take from few hours to few weeks, depends. So instead of spending time on this basic element of your design system, you should use these plugins on Figma to generate your color palette. I will show on my presentation only plugins for Figma because last 5 years I use Figma only, and I know that number for designers who are using Figma is growing every year. So if you use Sketch, I'm really sorry, but currently I'm sharing everything about Figma. So as you can see, you can use this plugin on Figma to generate your color palette. Then also you can use this plugin to create your color palette as styles and variables. Or you can use this plugin that also have an AI to generate your color palette, create everything, styles based on pictures, on image, or your printing guidelines. So I absolutely recommend to use any of this plugin to create your color scheme. Typography is also time consuming. You also can spend from hours to day to create your typography styles. And sometimes it's really challenging when you have already existing product and you need to gather everything together. So this plugin can really help you to save hours of your life by just some of them gathering all color styles that you already have on your mockups on Figma. Some of them help you to create type scale specifically for your needs. So I'll definitely recommend to use any of this. Next is icons. Why icons? It's really interesting because designers already designed like thousands of different versions of home icon. You can find it everywhere. So instead of, again, spending hours on this basic element such as icon, you can buy already existing icon set on this website, for example, or you can use any of plugins that you can find on Figma, for example, material symbols, or the same plugin from iOS. So it will help you save hours of your life on creation these icons, but again, there is a lot of other icons that you can find on different other websites. So I think you definitely could find something that's really suitable for your branding, for your website, to make it shiny and save time. What else? I would like also share my thoughts about these 3 plugins because these 3 plugins are just recently showed up and they're in beta version, but what they can do. Previously on previous slides, I shared that you can create icons, colors, and typography by using different plugins. And these plugins on this slide, they can do everything. But you need to prompt. You just need to prompt what you would like to create. Unfortunately, these plugins, again, in beta version, it means they're not that functional as they can be, but in the future, I see that by prompting, by adding few lines of text, you can create your own design system. Currently, they can create styles, color fonts, and few really simple design components, design system components, but that's it. But anyway, they're really powerful. And instead of having like 5 or 10 plugins for different reasons, you can use any of this. And it's really could help you save time. And when we're talking about designing, it's not the end. After design, usually we should go to the development phase. So we should move our design from Figma to code. Unfortunately, and fortunately, there is not that many plugins or tools that can help you move your Figma file or design on Figma to code, because Figma already did it. Figma introduced devs mode that help you just copy this code that Figma generate and paste it to your repository, to your files. And it's really helpful. Unfortunately, there is no other tools that can do something better. And there is not that many tools that you can try, really. But using dev mode is really beneficial for our team. So it definitely should help you to build your design system faster. And also when we're talking about building design system, usually I see that people and other companies and other teams use Storybook as a visualization of what you can find on Figma, what you can see on code. So it's really helpful. It helps engineers to understand what's going on, what's other state, what other patterns or styles you should use, or it also helps with version control. So Storybook or its alternative is definitely really helpful to save time and help with communication between different departments. Also, when we're talking about design system, it's all about documentation and guidelines. I might say that when we're talking about documentation, first thing first, what we're thinking about is ChatGPT. There is no longer need to have open tab of ChatGPT, because you can find this plugin on Figma that also have ChatGPT. So it means that you just open this plugin and prompt few lines of text about what you're going to generate, and this plugin will do everything. I use it a lot in the past. I will use it already for my design system. I'm working on design system and it's really helpful. Also, when we're talking about design system and components, it's usually all about anatomy of components. It means you should use, and you could use, and I recommend to use this H-shaped specs plugin, because it really helps to highlight these different measurements between components, space between components, and everything, and leave comments and some specific details for your engineer. So definitely should use it. And when we're talking about documentation, this application Zerahate is really helpful, because this is perfect place where you can place everything, all documentation that you have for both engineers and designers and for third parties or other departments in one place. You just create one page where you explain everything about some specific component, or you can explain patterns or use cases for specific elements. So it's really helpful to use this app as a source of truth for everyone. And since we already discussed components and where to place it and how to move it from design to engineering, we also should think about scalability. Because yes, we have users, our design system is valuable, and how to scale, because when you cannot scale, it means that your design system would be really hard, really difficult to maintain. You could spend a lot of hours on just creating new components and there will be no scalability at all. And eventually you can just lose your users and metrics gone wrong and there is no adoption at all. So you can try to make your design system scalable, just to add a lot of collaboration between different departments and collaboration between users and people who are building this design system, because this collaboration can help to understand points of improvements or weak points or this strength of design system. So collaboration is essential for building scalable design system. And when we're talking about scalability, it's all about documentation. So everything should be documented. And your design system should be flexible and modular, because when you cannot create your design system, when your design system is not that scalable, not that flexible, It means that every time when you need new component, when you need specific component, you cannot use existing one. You should create new one. And it means that you would end up with a lot of the same, very similar to each other components, and you will end up with a lot of documentation for all of them. You should definitely try to avoid creating a lot of components, and you should definitely think about adding flexibility to these components. And your design system is all about version control, because if your design system is evolving, if you create new components, if you add in documentation, you should definitely think about how to show versioning, how to help user to understand that this button is the most relevant one and previous one you should deprecate it. So version control is everything too. And once you done with everything, you create scalable design system, next step is adoption. If your design system have value and also have users, it means that you should educate and train all users that can possibly work with your design system, because training and education is the most essential one for adoption, because people should know what to use and how to use these components. And also it's all about feedback. And if you would like to scale your design system and make it living and breathing, you should think about improvements. And how to improve is just gathering feedback, because user will tell you what should be improved. And also, to make your design system perfect for adoption is your design system should be impactful for users, for company, because if there is no impact, there is no chance that company will use it and users will use it. And we're talking about people who are creating design systems, so it's all about recognition, because people who build design systems should be motivated and they should be recognized. So it's just tiny thing, but recognition is something that should be done for better adoption. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation about design system.